Welcome to another episode of the Clever Angle Podcast, and today we have Bethany Davis, the founder of Project Warm. She is a yoga instructor also and a physical therapist. My wife Destiny is here, and she's going to be helping me co-host and ask some of these questions. Bethany, thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm honored.
Yeah, so what has your life looked like during this quarantine season? Have you picked up any new hobbies or anything?
Yeah, I actually have picked up quite a few new hobbies. I wouldn't even say new hobbies, but maybe digging into old hobbies too. So some new hobbies, I've actually started doing some ballet online, which I've always wanted to do, but never really dove into. And I do have a friend that teaches adult ballet at the FOA. So I kind of got my introduction of doing, these classes online, maybe got up my
Nice.
bravery, built that up a little bit. And then I'm going to go and start that hopefully in the fall. But other than that, I've just been kind of reading a lot more, reading articles and books. I actually just started sprouting, just taking a lot more time at home, making.
What is sprouting?
So I just got into sprouting from another podcast, actually. And you just take these beans. So, we live in an apartment. We don't have room to garden. A lot of things anyways. We don't have a big yard. But we just started sprouting. So you just get these jars and you put these beans in them. It could be broccoli seeds or it could be mung beans. It could be, I think we have alfalfa beans as well, or alfalfa sprouts. I can't remember. But you put them in and then you fill them up with water and then you kind of drain the water 2 times a day and then it just sprouts and then you can put that sprout on your food. And it's really delicious and tasty and very, very nutritious. And I got a book. It's called The Sprout Book. And I've been really into that. So
that's neat.
Yeah, it's fun and it's cheap. And we have the space for it in our home. So because we can't really garden like we would want to. But yeah.
Yeah, that's really awesome. We've actually been doing a lot of planting of different flowers and different things. And one thing that we usually do on Sundays is we'll go around and look at all of the crepe myrtles in town because that's one of our favorite. Yeah, that's one of our favorite plants is crepe myrtle. So we have red ones and pink ones, and we just keep trying to add to our plant collection because my parents are huge outdoor yard people. So we're just kind of trying to follow in their footsteps. It's a lot harder than it looks.
But also following the things that you like, right?
Yeah, for sure.
That's something that you guys can follow. That's really cool though. They're beautiful.
Yeah.
So.
But yeah, so can you just give us a quick tagline of about me? What do you want the people to start off with to know about you?
So I am 26, about to be 27. I feels like a forever student. So I've been in college for 8 years, been teaching yoga for 4 years now. And that's something that I was doing pretty regularly up until COVID. And then the teaching kind of came to a halt. I didn't really pursue a lot of the Zoom classes like a lot of people did. I just kind of took a step back from teaching, but I am about to go back into it. Other than that, my passions lie in running. I like to run. I like to do yoga. I'm very passionate about nutrition and exercise as medicine. And I just graduated with my doctorate in physical therapy in May, technically, although the ceremony was in August. I have graduated, and then I just found out last week, actually, I passed my board exam. So,
yay, congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. And so I am now practicing, and I actually have 2 job interviews next week, so we'll just kind of see what happens from there.
That's awesome.
That's kind of the overhaul of, I'm married. I've been married for 4 years. My husband is also a physical therapist, and he's been working for about a year now, and he works at NEA. And then we have a dog. We adopted her about 3 years ago, and she is our entire world. So she's our child. But
that's awesome.
Yeah, we actually have a dog as well, and Destiny got her on Craigslist when she was in college. So
that's true.
I don't know.
I feel like that's valid. There's a lot of, it's just like adopting.
Yeah. I was at this concert, and it was kind of like me and my best friend. So we had just graduated college. I was going to move to a little studio apartment and start grad school, and she was moving to New York City. And so this was like our big goodbye. And I was like, I've got to get a dog. What am I going to do? I've got to get a dog. So it's like midnight, and I'm like searching on Craigslist while I'm at this concert, like, Han, what do you think about this one? Anyways, $100, best $100 I ever spent.
Yeah.
Little Demi.
Oh,
Yeah.
easily the best. 100 is
Yes.
like,
I
way
know,
worth it.
right? Yeah.
What's so funny, whenever I was, gonna spend however much I wanted on a dog, I'm like, this is my, I need to get a good dog. And when we went to the shelter, we got Jude, and dogs over 5 at the time, I don't think this is the rule anymore, but if the dog was over 5, they're free
Wow.
at the Humane Society. Because I guess people don't want older dogs. So when we went to go pay the adoption fee, they're like, oh no, she's older. Like, just take her.
Oh.
And I was like, okay. Like,
That's
it's meant to
awesome.
be. It's kind of cool though, I guess.
Yeah, that's awesome. I was never really a dog person, like through like kind of high school or college or anything. But once me and Demi got some alone time to spend together, because I took care of her a lot during the times where Destiny would be in like class and different stuff, and now I can't imagine my life without her. She's a great dog. I tell Destiny all the time that she's not her dog anymore. She's my dog.
Yeah.
So.
That's how I feel. I feel like Jude's definitely my dog more, but I'm also home a lot more right now than Brent is. But she's my little girl.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
Awesome.
So have you ever been a guest on a podcast before?
No, I have not. I've been on like little radio stuff, but this is actually kind of a dream because I do listen to up to like 3 or 4 hours of different podcasts a day. I love podcasts. Love them. I'll listen to them when I'm cleaning or when I'm walking Jude or when I'm driving. Pretty much almost half of the day, I would say I'm listening to podcasts. I prefer podcasts actually over watching TV or anything like that. So to be on a podcast, I love to talk too. So, this is really great. So.
Yeah, I love podcasts as well. I actually work at a job that allows us to listen to a lot of, we can have headphones and stuff. So I'm the same way. I listen to a lot of podcasts. So, but yeah, thank you for being on.
Thank you so much.
Why don't you share some of the ones that you listen to, just like on a normal day, so listeners can know?
My favorite right now is The Doctor's Pharmacy, and that's pharmacy with an F. So he talks about how he treats patients more like from a functional medicine standpoint. I'm really, really into that right now. Rich Roll is my favorite. He is a vegan triathlete in Los Angeles. He was an alcoholic and a lawyer for 20 years. And then he completely turned his life around. And I love hearing his stories and his guests that he has on his podcast. I listen to Yoga Girl podcast. I listen to one that's a physical therapist and a yoga teacher. I listen to The Minimalists, and they really talk about how to have less. I really like them. Goop is also one of my favorites. They come out with one every Tuesday, Thursday, and they just have all these different topics, racial justice, from that to makeup that's non-toxic. I mean, everything that you can imagine. What else did I listen to? Darren O'Lean. He talks about a lot of superfoods. I would say that's like the minimal that I listen to.
That's awesome.
And then, of course, the Clever Angle.
Yeah.
Definitely sneak those in there. So.
Okay, so have you ever taken like the Enneagram test?
Yes.
Okay, so we had some bets
I
on.
have a prediction on what you are.
Oh,
but I'm
cool.
gonna go
Okay,
ahead.
yeah.
Okay. Before
I want to hear it because I'm interested to know.
So I agree with her. I think 4. She
We
thinks
think you're
4.
a 4.
What is a 4? Okay, so I know what I am, but I'm not good at like what all of them are and like who connects best with who. Like I haven't read.
A 4
enough
is an individualist.
Okay. I'm not a 4.
Okay.
But I think I can't remember. I took it so long ago. I think I'm a wing 4.
Which one are you?
I'm a 3.
Oh, so you might be a 3. You might be
Yeah.
twins. I'm a 3 wing 4.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I don't remember which one I wing, but I know that like my solid one
Is
was
a 3.
Okay.
Okay.
And it does make sense every time that I like see stuff on a 3. I'm like, oh, very accurate.
Yes.
And honestly, I've never found anything to be as accurate as the Enneagram test.
Mhm.
Like, I feel like we've done the love language and we've
Mhm.
done all these other
Right.
tests. And I'm like, yeah, especially like horoscopes and stuff. I'm like, that really doesn't apply to me as much as, I mean, I could like make it
Mhm.
apply to me, but it really
Right.
doesn't. But every time I see 3 Enneagram stuff, I'm like, oh, that's definitely me.
Okay,
That's me.
okay.
That's me. So yeah,
Yep.
I find them really interesting. I need to do more research into how they connect with each other.
Yeah. So Tev is a 6-wing 7.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I'm a 3-wing 4.
So I haven't gotten Brent to take it.
You need
And
to.
I know.
You
And
need
so
to.
I think once he takes his, I'll be more interested to know how like our Enneagrams would like
Yeah.
interact.
Well, it's helpful to learn about the others because then it's like, it's almost like, okay, I get you now. Like if this is the way you think, I get you. And how can I, appeal to you, or how can I talk about things that are important to you instead of just being so focused on my mindset,
Yeah.
I
and
think that's been helpful.
I find that with, have you guys done the love language
Yes.
test?
Yeah.
Yes.
That's really helpful for Brent and I
Yes,
as well.
for
Because
sure.
like I think the way that you want to receive your love is the way that you project it.
Mhm.
And then, you're not always like
Yeah,
aligning, right?
right.
Like, I'm showing you all this love through mine is acts of service. And then Brent's is words of affirmation. And so
Mhm.
I'm doing all this stuff. And then he's like telling me all this stuff. And we're like not, so we
Yeah.
have to like show
Yeah,
it in the way that your
exactly.
partner wants to receive it. And I think that would be helpful even if he took the Enneagram test for
Yeah,
us to like align
definitely.
more.
Yeah, I'm definitely an acts of service person as well.
Yeah, like doing the dishes is
Yes.
going to tell me
Oh
that
my
you love
gosh.
me a little bit more than being like, love you. And then the dishes are still there and that's fine. But,
Yeah.
we have to like know how our partner wants
Right.
to receive love. So,
That is very true. But yeah, the Enneagram is something that we geek out on a lot. So it's interesting. I can definitely see both of you being a 3, for sure.
fellow 3.
Yep. We're friends.
Yeah. Okay. So I just have like a random question because I just go off on just different things. So if you were to be added to like a cast for like a TV show, like what TV show would you want to be on?
I have no idea. I don't watch that much TV, to be honest. I don't know. That's a hard question. Probably like Sex in the City.
Nice. Okay.
Okay.
I
Okay.
would definitely. I really want to live in New York at some point in my life. Actually, before COVID, I was supposed to spend the whole summer there.
Wow.
Wow. We were
and
supposed to be
then
there as well.
My
I
best
was
friend lives
supposed to,
there.
live in Manhattan for like 8 weeks.
That's
and
amazing.
because I was studying, I was like, okay, this is the only time in my life that I'm not going to be tied down to a job or in school. So I was like, okay, I'm just going to go. It's going to be just me and Jude. Brent was going to come visit, of course, but he can't get 2 months off of work. And so, yeah, maybe Sex in the City or maybe like The Politician or something on Netflix. But
Yeah. What? Okay. So this would probably appease to you a little bit more than whose podcast would you want to be a guest on?
Oh, definitely Rich Roll podcast or Goop. Those are the 2 that I listen to the most. And I think that all the other ones are more tied towards medicine. And so I would want to be on one where I could speak about more than just medicine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So let's get started into all the things that you do and all the things you're about. So you recently graduated. Can you tell us about your journey through PT school?
Yeah, it's been an interesting journey. I actually started PT school in 2016. So I graduated with my bachelor's in exercise science in 2016. So Brent and I both applied to PT school. We both got in the same year, which is kind of crazy. I don't know how often that happens. They only take 30 per class.
Right.
And I remember we both were waiting our results and we got our letters kind of like on the same day. And he just called me and he was just like, hey. And I was like, hey, because we weren't like married or anything at the time. And he was like, so I got a letter. And I was like, oh God, me too. Because I didn't think we ever wanted to be the one to be like, I got in, I'm so excited, but you didn't.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. So we ended up both getting in. So we're like, oh, this is totally meant to be. We actually got married and started PT school within like 2 weeks. It was kind of crazy, and moved out. It was a total chaotic time in our life. We were like started PT school in boxes. So we started that. We went through the first year of PT school together. And then actually a year in, I quit PT school. I was like, I just don't know. I struggled the whole first year the coursework obviously was super hard. Just the first year of any sort of graduate program is just like complete killer.
Yeah.
They're trying to like wean you out. People fail. So I made it, but then I was in my clinicals and I just kind of called my mom and I was like, I just don't know if this is like really what I want to do. And this is like a lot of time, a lot of effort, and a lot of money that I'm spending on something that I'm not even sure that I want to do. So I ended up quitting. I went to the chair of the department and I was like, I just don't think this is for me right now. And when I did quit, they told me because my grades were fine and because I was on like good terms leaving, I had so many years, like I had to sign all this stuff, but I had, I think 3 years that I could come back and I wouldn't have to redo the first year.
Nice.
I could just pick up where I left off. And I was, at the time, I was like, okay, we'll see ya. Wouldn't want to be it. Like I was never coming back here. And I actually took an entire year and I just job shadowed. I traveled and I just
What kind of jobs did you shadow? Like PT jobs or different jobs?
Different jobs. I wanted to see, I don't think that we do enough job shadowing in undergraduate and especially in high school. I think, we did job shadowing in high school. But what the heck do we know in high school? I don't know. Like,
well, that's literally like the little tagline when he first started this podcast is like job shadowing without the job shadowing. If you don't have the opportunity, just sit down. That's hopefully what these podcasts can be, is just sitting down and listening to somebody tell their story. And then maybe you're like, that sounds good, or no.
Yeah, I would love an 18-year-old to listen to this and be like, maybe I should do job shadowing, and don't rely on your classes in college to make you do it for an assignment. Like you have to go out and do it yourself because you're not going to get that. I didn't. I don't know if maybe other schools did or do more job shadowing in their first year. So whenever I did take that year off, I job shadowed business kind of degrees, like business administration. I kind of went into marketing a little bit, just different types of medical fields, nutrition, maybe a DO path. Like there were several different careers that I followed people around. Like, okay, what do you do all day? And so I did that. And ultimately I ended up deciding that I just needed to go ahead and finish out this PT degree. It's something that I just felt like I kind of needed to do at the time. I don't know why I necessarily was called back to do it. I just kind of did it because at the time it felt right. And I think that's all life is, right? Like what feels right now. Yeah. And then you kind of just got to go for it.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, I really resonate with what you were saying about needing more job shadowing in high school and the undergrad level, because I can remember being an 18-year-old kid, not really knowing what I wanted to do. And then just going to college anyway, thinking that, I was just going to figure it out or people are going to help me. And it just wasn't the case. I honestly wish that, I could have sat down with one of my advisors and been like, look, I really want to stay around here. This is my degree. Do I have a chance of getting a job? And if they would have said no, I would have been like, okay, what do I need to do, to be able to work around here? Because, family is really important to me. So I love being around my brother, my sister, my parents.
But nobody asks you that. Right?
Exactly.
Like, what are your values? Where do you want to be?
That's one of my questions. Just wait. That's one of my questions. I'm like, we need to be more values minded as far as, which I'm a therapist. So I do this with my clients, is like, it doesn't really matter what you want to do. It's more, okay, what are your values? And let's live those out no matter what chapter it is. Like, that's what, with your year off, is still part of your value set that you were still living out your values regardless of what field you're in.
Jobs that fill your values.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Not just one.
It's not just one job fits one value. It's what are your values, and then what career options do you have from there?
Exactly.
So
exactly. Yeah. And it's just, I don't know, it's just very hard to be thinking about the rest of your life when you're 18. It's really like the first time a lot of people have gotten freedom from a just, traditional go to school at 7:30, get out at 3. If you do sports, you're there a little bit longer. But this is the first time where no one's like making you go to class. Like you can skip class if you want to. You can go out and get a job if you want to. You're kind of
schedule.
Exactly.
Sleep until 10.
Exactly.
Go to your 11 o'clock.
Yeah. My Tuesday, Thursday schedule on my freshman year, I didn't have class until 2 p.m. I had 2 p.m. class and a 7 p.m. class. So, I was off to where I didn't have to work because I had those classes, in the middle of the day. But, I was like, man, I really, wasted a lot of time like sleeping in and different things. And, why didn't people tell me that, this isn't going to be good for, the rest of your week and, different things like that. So, but yeah, definitely.
You were figuring out what worked for you
Yeah.
with your own schedule.
Yeah.
It wasn't wasted.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't say wasted. It's just like I had no idea what I was doing, no kind of direction. I was just kind of figuring it out. And, I learned from it, obviously. But it's like, could I have, if I would have, some of these job shadowing opportunities would have been available, would I have made different decisions? Would I have been like, okay, well, this health promotion degree I'm getting, this doesn't line up with what I want my life to look like after this. So maybe I need to pivot while I'm still early on.
Yeah.
And, if I'm going to spend $50K on an undergrad degree or whatever it is, I want it to lead to something that's going to be, lasting.
Yeah,
I think
you want it to bring you a career at the end of it
Yeah.
that you're happy with.
Mm-hmm. I think a lot of people go into what they want to study. And there's a difference in studying something and producing a job, like a career field. So I think like I have a lot of friends who are like, I love psychology. I love how the brain works. And so I'm going to go into psychology. And I'm always like, okay, but what do you want to do? Like you can study art in college, but we've got to have both because then people graduate and they're like trying to get a job in that. And that's not, you're probably not going to find that. You've got to find a good mix of you're passionate about it, but it also leads to a career you're likely not going to be happy.
There's such a big difference. Even with job shadowing, you spending one day in the job does not tell you if you're going to like that or not. It's one day.
Mm-hmm.
Like you need to go and spend like a week following that
Yeah.
person around, because one day it's like, oh, well, even if it was kind of okay, like I could do that. Could you do it every day for the rest of your life?
Right.
Probably not. Or maybe you could, who knows? But I have that distinct memory of being in my Making Connections class.
Oh my goodness.
In freshman, and I went in undecided. I'm 18 years old, about to turn 19. And they were like, all right, so what do you want to do? And like, you have to make this, not, they weren't forceful about it, but they were like, you need to decide because like you already have all these classes behind you and you're going to have to start getting into your quote major. Mm-hmm. And I was just like, well, I don't really know. I guess this sounds good. And I chose physical therapy at 18 and went with it. And then, they make your, what's it called? Your program for the rest of the degree plan. Your degree plan. And then you just go through the motions, right? Like these are the classes that I take this semester. Make sure I get a good grade. And then you just keep moving forward. And it's almost like there's these little goals of just like, oh, let me pass. And then you look back and you're like, wait, what am I doing?
Mm-hmm. Why did I pick this?
Yeah. It's interesting because you said that you were like an exercise science undergrad. And I remember, because I had a lot of friends. TJ was a exercise science undergrad as well, and I was like, man, I was going to do that because it sounded interesting. But like there was one class and it was chemistry, and I had never had it really any success with chemistry, like at the high school level. And then I just kept hearing people saying how hard chemistry was. So just for that reason, I was just like, well, I'm just going to do this degree that's kind of like this, but I don't have to take chemistry.
But you're 18, right?
Yeah.
And you'll do anything to avoid that one chemistry class. When if you look back and you really wanted that degree, the chemistry obviously would have been worth it to have taken.
Right.
Yeah. So.
But no one, we could go down that rabbit hole for a long time, but we're just not pushed or guided in the right direction at 18 to make those decisions to set us up for a happy career. And I think we also tend to push students more towards careers that are deemed important by society.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, you should go to medical school. You should go
to law school.
Or physical therapy or social work or something that's
yeah.
valuable.
And it's without going on like a super long tangent, I'll just tell a quick story about, I got to the end of my undergrad degree, I did an internship that I really wasn't passionate about. It was okay. It was a learning experience. But I found myself not really prepared to, go out there into the workforce. And after like a year of searching for a job, I decided to reach out to like the program director at ASU. It was the health promotion program director. And I was like, hey, I've done these things. I have this degree, I'm living in Jonesboro. Like, what can I do to get a job? And he was like, well, if you need to go basically work for free 40 hours a week somewhere. And I was like, I can't do that.
Great.
He was like, well, if you can't do that, you need to go get another degree and get your master's in health promotion. And I'm just like, so you're telling me this now, that the only option I really have with this degree is to go get another degree. And I just felt defeated.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I just wanted to get that out there.
Yeah,
but
it's the birth of the podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
The birth of the podcast.
That's why I took the year off though, because I was like, okay, let me explore for a second. Let me travel. Let me do some things that are not school, because there was not a time in my life that I was not in school.
Right.
And unless you take that initiative yourself to go out and figure out what career you want, a lot of times people don't. Mm-hmm. And you just end up in the career that you chose, and then you're on the path.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what did it look like when you had taken this year off, traveled, and going back into the physical therapy? What did that look like?
Yeah. So going back was very intimidating. I don't tell a lot of people that. I think I went in really confident and I was like, yeah, I'm coming back. But it was super scary because it's cohorts, right? So you go into the class below you. And so Brent's a year above me. All the people that I knew and were friends with were a year above me. They all looked at me different, because it's almost like a privilege to get into that program, right? And then I felt like people almost looked at me like, you kind of threw that away. Like, why? Mm-hmm. Like, what's wrong with you? Why would you go off the path? Why would you choose or question to be something different when you have something so good? And so it was very scary. And then it was very just a lot of questioning. Is this really what I want? Do I really want to go back? So it was very hard, but I grew a lot from the experience of going back and kind of facing my fears of not wanting to go back, but also wanting to. It was just, I think I grew a lot from it for sure.
That's good.
Yeah. So, can you tell us a little bit about like your clinicals and the different types of populations that you worked with after you went back?
Yeah. So in the physical therapy program, you are required to work with at least an outpatient population, an inpatient population, whether that be like a nursing facility or an inpatient rehab hospital, and then acute care. So I had to work in all of those settings. And then the other two are electives. So I've done a lot of pediatrics, and I've done more outpatient. My last clinical rotation was actually supposed to be outpatient, and it ended up being peds because I got kicked out of my outpatient clinical because of COVID. Oh. So I had to.
I was like,
I was
you
in
got
a
kicked
hospital.
out.
No.
Okay.
Like, I mean, all the students or non-essential people basically got booted. Right. They were like, well, we can't have you here. And so I got booted for 4 weeks, and they ended up waiving it. But I ended up having to go to Hot Springs and finish up my rotations there, which is fine. Mm-hmm. It worked out. But so I think that I do want to go into outpatient though. That's my goal, but we'll see what happens with jobs and interviews. But I do know for sure I'm not going to take the traditional route of doing PT full-time. 8 to 5, working in a clinic is kind of just not for me. Mm-hmm. And for a long time I thought that was lazy, but it's just not what I want. It's not what I want. I think I'll burn out like that, working in healthcare that much. So I have a couple of like part-time positions lined up that I'm going to interview for, which will be fun, because then you have the, other time in your week to be creative and to do things that aren't healthcare.
Right. So tell us about your yoga. I'm interested in, since you were doing exercise science, did you get into yoga because of your passion in this, or was that something unrelated?
So, I chose exercise science at like 18, kind of went along that path. I was a cheerleader, believe it or not. It's embarrassing, kind of, but sticking by it. I was a cheerleader for 8 years, competitive cheer. And then when I got into college, I was like, oh, I'm going to do yoga because I'm flexible and I could do this. And I started working at the gym here in town, Health and Wellness. when I was 18 and I saw these people, super fit. And I was like, oh, I'm going to like do exercise science. I'm going to be super fit and, take care of my health. And I ended up just going to a class a couple of times and I was like, oh, I'm really good at this. And then eventually when I started practicing it regularly, I was like, oh, there's a lot more to yoga than just this physical flexibility type of practice. And it became a lot more of like a emotional, spiritual kind of getting to know myself practice more so than it was physical. Yeah. Although that was like a good part of it. And so I worked there for 4 years, did yoga for about 4 years. And then in the last year of my undergraduate, I went and got my teacher training license in Little Rock. And then I started teaching when I got into graduate school.
That's awesome. So how often do you teach now?
Right now, I'm not even teaching at all.
Oh, COVID, yes.
Yeah. But before, I was teaching at up to 4 different studios around town, 4 classes a week. It was just kind of like what I did for money and for that creative outlet on the side of being in school, because it kind of allowed me to create my own schedule as well. Could be like, oh, I'm going to teach on this night and this morning and this. And it made me in charge instead of, because you can't really work a full or part-time job in graduate school because it's a lot of times 8 to 5. Right. So that was like my job in graduate school.
Awesome.
Yeah. So you mentioned doing PT part-time and having that space open to do things creative. What are some of those things that you're going to be filling that time with?
Yeah. So I want to teach more. I want to start teaching in, a safe way, of course. I've been trying to choose places that allow distancing for yoga classes right now. And I'm also trying to shift more out of studios and more into like community type classes, like at the brewery at Native Brew Works. I think I might start doing something with the Bradbury Art Museum, like just different places where people can come and they can practice yoga, but it doesn't have to be, I think a lot of times a studio can be really intimidating. And it can seem like if it's not a cult, that's not the right word, but it's its own like group of people. And if you don't belong in that space, then you're not going to go there. And memberships are really expensive. So I'm really going more towards the community classes and the donation-based classes. So I want to start doing things like that. And I also want to start intertwining yoga and physical therapy. Arkansas has what's called direct access. So you don't have to go to a physician to see a physical therapist. You can come directly to me. So I can see patients or clients through cash pay. So we could do yoga, we could work on whatever specific injury that you have, and we could do meditation, and we could really tie the two together, because I don't think that a lot of people here are doing that. So I want to work on that. I want to start recording more YouTube classes, maybe some more meditations, some little tutorials on things that a physical therapist can offer.
That's awesome.
Things like that. And I'm actually writing a book. But,
wow. Yeah. Okay.
So I'm writing a book right now. And then there's actually a couple other things I'll probably tell you off of the podcast that I'm working on.
Yeah.
One of them will be, we'll have a lot more information tomorrow, but there's just some other really big things that are happening that will take up a lot of my time. And I really want to focus on those, because you want to make your money and use your degree. Like, I want to use what I have, but also I really want to dig into this creative energy that I have going, of doing things every day that you're like, oh, I'm on fire for, right? Like, I wake up and I'm so excited. And this podcast being one of them, I want to go and say yes to things that I'm like, yes, like I really want to, not because I feel like I have to, if that makes sense.
Yes.
No, that makes perfect sense. That's awesome. I'm interested to hear about those things.
Yeah.
For sure. So what's some advice you would tell someone that has never done yoga before, but wants to get into it?
Yeah. So my favorite line when people have not come to a yoga class, my favorite line or phrase that I always tell people is, you don't go, well, how do I say it now? Now that I'm on a podcast, I'm going to have trouble getting it out, of course.
It's okay. We can edit it.
Yeah. Oh, you don't have to. I like, being real.
Okay.
So I think that you go to the doctor because you're sick, right? You don't like not go to the doctor because you're sick. So it's almost like being sick is a prerequisite of going to the doctor. And not that I'm comparing flexibility or, not being flexible as being sick, but a lot of people say that they can't go to yoga because they are not flexible. But that's the point. Like, you go to yoga because you're not flexible, because you don't have that practice. So when people say that they're not flexible enough for yoga, I'm like, no, that's why you go to yoga, to like get flexible and to move your body and to like dig a little bit deeper. So anybody can do yoga. Mm-hmm. Anybody can do yoga. Like you can be a paraplegic and you can do yoga. Like it's more mental than it is physical sometimes. Mm-hmm. And I want to dig into that. Whatever people are interested in, whether it be physical or mental, yoga is everything. Yeah. It could be just us sitting here and being present right now. It could be a breathing practice. It could be a movement practice. So I think everyone is welcome at yoga. We can always modify, can always find a teacher or a place or a mat that works for you. Mm-hmm. It's very individualistic and nobody's excluded from it.
Love it.
Yeah. So I spent some time over the weekend looking at your website and different things, and you're really big into healthy eating. So can you tell us a little bit about your health practices in that regard?
So 4 years ago, when I started PT school, actually, I decided to cut out meat completely. It was when I stopped eating meat, it was not for the health reasons. It was for more animal rights reasons. I couldn't sit and look at my dog and then still eat meat, but that's just very personal for me. I would never tell anyone else how to eat, right? And I don't ever want to be some sort of vegan that's in people's faces and they're like, this is how you should eat. This is the only way, because that's never going to get anyone anywhere. I just know that I have knowledge and I know how I feel. And I think that should just be like a reflection out to others. So I stopped eating meat about 4 years ago. And then not long after, I cut out dairy. And then all the health benefits came along without me even trying. Mm-hmm. And then that's when I was like, oh, this is really great, because I feel better. I have more energy. My skin's cleared up. Any physiological problems I had that I didn't even know I had cleared up. And so from then on out, I just kind of eat plant-based whole foods. I don't like to say vegan because I think that it's just a title. I mean, I don't want to be part of like a culture necessarily, but eat real foods, eat when you're hungry. I don't count calories. I don't do carb. I don't count anything. I just eat to like fuel myself. And I like to think of food as fuel and not a reward. I mean, it can be a reward, but it's more of just, I want to fuel my body and I want to give it the proper nutrients so that I can live the best way. But that started, about 4 years ago. And then I kind of haven't looked back since, because I just feel great.
It's awesome.
Yeah. So do you have like a normal daily or weekly routine that you practice for physical and emotional healthiness?
Yeah. So I make sure every day that I have definitely fruits and vegetables, some sort of protein, whether it be through like grains, nuts, beans, things like that. And it does not get boring. I think people are like, oh, do you just eat like the same? No, there's so many things that you can eat and be plant-based, and it's not expensive, because Brent and I have been on college budget for 4 years. Like, it's not that expensive. I think a lot of people think eating like that is super expensive. It's really not, if you know where to shop and if you know how to buy in bulk and, just to be frugal. There are plenty of ways to do that. And it'd be very, very tasty. Spices and different types of things that you can add to it that are really, really great. And then I think emotionally and spiritually, I do meditate every day. If I miss a day, it's maybe a couple of days in a row, but I really try and meditate every day, whether that be in the morning or in the evening when I can squeeze it in. And sometimes it's 1 minute, sometimes it's 10 minutes. It just really depends on the day and what I have time for. But I do meditate every day, and then I make sure to definitely get vegetables in my diet every day.
So is your husband, is he like on board with all of this as well? Like, is that his eating style as well?
It is now. I knew so we had just gotten married, we just started PT school, and then I was like, I'm not eating meat. And, I knew better than to be like, okay, well, if I'm not eating it, you're not eating it. I was never going to be like that towards him, because there's no point in me forcing it on him, because then it's not like an intrinsic change, right? Mm-hmm. So for the first year, whenever I went on that journey, we would have like 2 separate grocery lists of like, okay, well, here's the stuff that you're going to eat for your meals this week, and here's what I'm going to eat. And then over the years, they kind of just blended together, and we ended up, and you could even compare the two. He spent more money than I did, and he just kind of would be like, okay, well, I'm going to only eat chicken or whatever for like this one meal. And then it just kind of transitioned into now he really doesn't eat much meat. I would say maybe he eats meat when it's at like a gathering, or his family happened to have cooked that one thing. And then a lot of times now he'll even say no, just because he slowly transitioned into it, but not by me forcing him to transition into it. It just kind of came naturally. Mm-hmm. And he feels a lot better. He lost weight. All these things happened without really trying for them to happen. And so now we're pretty much on the same page, but I'm never going to restrict him or judge him for eating meat. I just know like what works for me. And then he kind of follows that lifestyle too now.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah.
So like I said, I was on your website. I read one of your blog posts, the one about triggers. I read that one.
Oh, yay. Thanks.
Can you tell us, the listeners, some details about your blog and when you started it and all that good stuff?
Yeah, I actually started my blog the year that I quit PT school. It was just kind of an outlet. I've always loved writing. I've actually always loved journaling, but then I would journal and my hand would get tired and I'd give up and I'd quit. And I never kept them, and I would always lose them, or, I'd start one and then start another, and there'd be all these like half empty. And so I was like, no, I'm not going to do that anymore. And so one day I just like started typing out all this stuff, and I was like, this is a blog post. So I just started a website, and at first I did start on WordPress. And then eventually I switched over to Squarespace because I just felt like it was easier for me. And I liked the website designs a little bit more. But now I just do that as like a way to connect with people, especially through social media. I think it's important that we do talk about some of this stuff. I think social media can be very, this person went to this event and they had this big, or they had this life event, right? Like they graduated, or they did this and blah, blah, they got married or whatever. But then it's like, what are you really dealing with? And I want us to really focus on that. So the blog is kind of like that entryway. And I've had a lot of really great conversations with people about deeper stuff because of the blog. And that's that's what it's about for me. And so that's why I really like doing it.
That's awesome. What are some advice you would give to someone that wants to start a blog or like a podcast or some kind of creative outlet?
Yeah. Well, you're doing it too. So which you're doing great. This is awesome. I would say, I think people look at a blog or a podcast and they're like, I want to be like this. And they have millions and millions of followers. And I actually just listened to one with Rich Roll, and he was saying how he's been podcasting now, I think it was like over 10 years. And he's just now like really comfortable and getting his style and all that stuff. I wish he has had a style for a while, but now he like really knows what he wants. I think people look at that and they don't see all the work that people put in it previously. And I would say that just do it. Like, it doesn't matter how many followers you have. It doesn't matter how many people read it. Like, if you feel happy with the content that you are putting out there, like, that's it, right? Like, you're expressing yourself in a way that feels authentic to you. And if you reach 2 people, that's the exact same as someone reaching 2,000 people or 200,000 people, because you're impacting and you're making your footprint and you are sharing what you want to share. Right. And that's all that matters. That's what the whole medium is for. Right.
Even, as a therapist, I frequently tell people to just, like we said, journal or write it down, because a lot of times if I'm going through something and say, because I have a blog also, say I just like try to write it all out. Honestly, that's enough. Even if no one else reads it, I feel like I have processed it and I have like put my feelings out, and I've worked through them just through writing it out. Now, if someone can read that and be like, oh my gosh, I've been through that too. Or, get some tips on things that helped me or whatever, then that's wonderful. But sometimes just writing it out or just painting or just, just doing it is enough regardless of the follower count or whatever.
I would definitely say it's as much for me as it is
exactly.
for other people.
Yeah,
because
that's how it is for me.
Yeah, I feel better once I've typed things out and expressed. I'm like, oh, that felt really good. And then it's just nice when other people also are like, oh, I feel that way too.
Right.
It's
it was so crazy.
Mm-hmm.
I'll spend a lot of time being like, okay, because I do a lot on breastfeeding or on parenting or whatever. And so I'll like really write out all this stuff and spend a lot of work. And, that might not get that much traction. But then like the day that I was just like so upset, all this racial stuff was going on. And I just literally journaled how I was feeling. It was like 16,000, 17,000 views or something crazy. And I'm like, see, when you just are real and just, express how you feel, that's people.
I think you're going to get more attention when you don't try.
Yeah, exactly.
Almost. Like just be you. Mm-hmm. And the people that are going to read it and that you're going to attract, it's going to be way more authentic than you trying to get some sort of following or some sort of status or some sort of like, reward for what you're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a great answer. So, can you tell us a little bit about your nonprofit? How did you start it and what inspired you to start it?
Yeah. I guess that started in 2019 in January. I was actually studying for finals with a friend. We were at Starbucks and I was just in there with her and I was freezing and I was like looking outside and it was probably like 20 degrees and I was like, I just don't even know. I remember saying, I don't even know how someone could live outside right now. There's no way like I could ever. I'm always cold, like at all times. I'm always freezing. And I just remember saying that and I was like, well, we could start a coat drive or something. I wish I could give coats to people. And then I had seen something maybe a week before where people, I think it was in Pennsylvania or somewhere, they were tying the coats onto like the poles or trees. That's awesome. I was like, why don't we do that here? And so we did it. And I got some people to donate some coats. I don't remember how many we had that first round, but we tied the coats, just a couple friends and I. And then when we drove back around, within the hour, they were gone. And I was like, oh, okay, like this is something we could do, right? So then we, made it an actual event and we collected coats. And that first year, we just did it for January and February of 2019. And we donated or, tied over 400 coats. And we picked up because a week later, I go back and I pick them up, right? Like if nobody picked them up, and they're still tied to the pole or the light pole or the tree, I'm not going to just leave it there. I'll go donate it to a shelter or something. And I only picked up I think less than 10.
Wow.
Yeah. And that was the first year. And so what makes us different though at Project Warm is we had people from the community tie a little card to it with a note. And it says you're loved, you're cared for, because anyone, you can go and you can get a coat from Goodwill or someone can donate a coat to you. But for someone to have that message in their pocket of you're cared for, Jonesboro, the community is here for you. And I think there's also a lot of shame of going to maybe a coat, place where you pick up coats, like a shelter. So this is cool because we take the coats to them. And then, so we do it 3 months out of the year. It's December, January, February. So for 2019 and 2020, we actually became a nonprofit. So we got the 501c3 and we got all of that taken care of. So we can accept donations and different things like that.
Awesome.
And we did it again this year and it was super successful. And this year we actually expanded it to Madison, Wisconsin as well. And we distributed there, which I honestly know they need it more because it's way colder there.
Yeah.
So I have a friend there and she ran that part of the business from Madison. And then I hope that each year we'll just continue to expand cities because we are a nonprofit now. We have a lot more flexibility than us just doing it as a project.
Right.
But Yeah,
I
it's
love
been
that.
great.
Yeah, that's an awesome thing. How can people get involved and support your nonprofit?
Yeah, we have a website. It's projectwarmnonprofit.com. You can also follow us on Instagram at project.warm. And what we do now is, and this is subject to change, of course, but we have events where we collect coats. So you can drop your coats off during this time, and I'll post that stuff on the website and on Instagram. And then we have a time where you can write the notes, and then we have a time where if you want to help distribute. So you can help in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
You can donate a coat, you can write a note, or you can come with us to actually go and tie the coats. And it's really, really rewarding to go out and tie the coats, because then you can drive back around and you can see the ones that have been picked up. Mm-hmm. And then one time we were driving and there was 2 kids carrying our coats, that they had picked up, and it was like the best thing ever to see. So that, of all 3 volunteer opportunities, is the most rewarding to me.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's really awesome. We're definitely gonna have to. I was telling my mom a little bit about you in the interview before we came up here, and she was like, "Yeah, whenever we get back from Atlanta, there's some coats that we could donate." And I was like, "Yeah, just get them together, and I'll get them over to Bethany."
Them. Yeah,
for sure.
We'll take them for sure.
Yeah, so I definitely admire the fact that you've tried so many different things. What is one thing that you have yet to try but you want to?
So I really want to open up a coffee shop one day.
I can see it.
I want to open up a coffee shop and a smoothie bowl place.
Okay.
Ooh, okay.
That is my ultimate goal.
We'll be there.
Smoothie bowls are kind of my favorite thing ever.
I see
I make one every morning.
Your post and I'm just like, I need to learn this.
Yeah,
I need to learn this
anytime.
craft. I will.
I make them almost every day. I made them a lot more this summer because I was home studying. It's a little bit harder whenever I was in clinic and I was working, but I still made it happen. And so I make sure to really get that done. But that is also a creative outlet for me. Mm-hmm. And so, whenever you wake up in the morning, I've been really into what do I want to do? And then what do I feel like I have to do? Right. So I'm trying to figure out the two, because I think that we've been programmed ever since we were young. We've been just programmed to things that we think that we probably want to do, but we've just felt like we've had to do. So I'm trying to really differentiate those. Mm-hmm. And so when I wake up in the morning, I'm like, what do I want to do? I want to make a smoothie bowl. Mm-hmm. So I go and do that, and I have a cup of coffee and, get things done. But that would be an ultimate goal. And I'm actually going back to school.
Really?
Yeah. I know. In the spring, I'm going back for registered dietitian.
Okay,
mm-hmm.
Awesome.
I think that it took me 26 years, but my passion is definitely nutrition. Physical therapy is also amazing. Like, I think that movement is medicine. I want to help people physically, but if I'm being 100% honest with just myself, I want to help people through nutrition.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome.
I'm going back. It'll take me a few years, but I don't think it's ever too late to go back and do the career that you wanted at any age.
Yeah, I think people need to hear that, because especially I'd love to hear from your husband's perspective how supportive, or your family just in general. Because I think a lot of times our family and friends are the ones who are like, they're either the ones cheering us on, like, no, you should do it, go for it. Or they're like, we can't afford that, or no, or, you've already got a degree, or,
Yeah. So Brent has been the best ever. He's super supportive. Whatever it is, he's like, I think at the end of the day, he just wants me to be happy. And sometimes it takes 26 years to figure out what makes you happy.
Yeah, or longer.
I think or way longer.
Yeah.
And I don't think that there's a timeline that it should be under. I don't think you need to have it figured out by 30 or have it figured, by any sort of age, because it's constantly changing too. Like, what made you happy at 21 may not make you happy at 30, and it's okay. Mm-hmm. It is 100% okay to change careers, to change who you're with, to change what you do. It's okay, because you are a constantly changing and evolving person. My family, I am half Asian, so my mom's whole side of the family is Chinese, and it's a culture that's so great, but it's a culture that's very very focused on your career, and it being a good career and you making money and, it's great, but it's trying to find the right words for it. It's not pressured, but it is at the same time to get that career and to stick with it and to make your parents proud. So my parents are very, very supportive, but also I know that they just really want me to figure it out because they've been with me. I'm like, I don't know what I want to do. And they're like, Bethany, you need to figure it out. But it's also my life. Yeah. I think that I have to figure it out in a way that it's kind of on my own timeline as well.
And I love the idea that it's not even like you don't have it figured out on your path. I think even, once you get the paper, that doesn't even mean anything. Right. It's still a journey of the things you're doing now, may evolve. You're still doing a lot, regardless if you have the final paper or whatever it is. I think people are, we need to stop waiting for the next thing and just living in the moment and being present.
Having a degree isn't doing things.
Yeah.
It's having a degree.
Right.
People think that doing things is being successful in your careir. And it's not.
It doesn't have to be.
It doesn't have to. I mean, of course it could be.
Yeah.
But if you chose to do something, if I, had my doctorate and I wanted to go work as a janitor and it made me happy, that's doing things because I'm doing things that are right for me. But it may not be what society deems successful or quote on the right path or the steps that I should take. And that's not what I want to follow anyways. I want to do what makes me happy at that time. And I just financially, if you have to take out more loans, which I will, I would rather be in more debt and then be in a career that makes me happy than me be a little bit more financially stable and wake up and be like, well, I really wish I was doing this. Because it's the quality of life.
Right.
100%. 100%.
Yeah.
What values are important to you and how do you see yourself living out those values in all the areas that you're practicing? So like PT, yoga, nonprofit, all of that.
Love and acceptance and always being welcome to people of all ages, all lifestyles, all different types of stories, right? This is what this whole podcast is about. If I want to hear your story just as much as I want to hear your story, and I don't want to judge anyone for whatever steps they took in their life. So I think non-judgment is very huge in a core value in someone.
Right.
You can't look at someone and be like, oh, well, they did this. Well, here's my assumption on them. It's not going to work because you don't know them.
Right.
You don't know what they've been through. And you have to love people, even if their values don't align with yours. You have to show kindness, especially now. I mean, guys, this year,
2020.
I feel like it's brought out the worst in people or the best. I think fear has brought out a lot of bad qualities in people. Because I just posted something the other day about wearing masks and I got so much hate for it. And I'm like, this is crazy. Like you're my friend. You're a nice person and you're being really, really rude right now. Is it because you're scared? Probably. And just this year has brought out all these very harsh comments from people.
You're either on one side or the other of anything this year. Doesn't matter what the conversation is. People are you're on one side or the other.
You have to be able to be kind to someone even if you don't agree with them. And I think we need to learn that. And that's something that I think I stand for in PT, in yoga, and you just got to be welcoming and you got to be kind. It's not hard. It's not a hard thing.
Yeah. So how do you manage all of your things? So do you have any time management hacks or anything?
I wish I had time management hacks. I feel like some days I'm so productive and then some days I literally just lie around. So, I mean, I think, and I just wrote a blog post. I haven't even published it yet. It's called Breaking Routine. Because I think some days I want to sleep until 9 and some days I'm up at 4:30. It really depends I let my body tell me my routine, right? I think scheduling is key. If I have a goal of writing a book, I need to make sure that each week I get certain things done. I think if you look at your day, there's probably things that you really, really should get done. And there's things that you maybe get done if you can.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that there's a balance between the two of those that you have to find.
Yeah,
and
for me, that's
for me.
laundry. Laundry's like, it should do it, but
Same.
it's okay if it's not. There's other things. It's like, okay, we have to do this.
I have a constant list of things that should be probably, like I should probably get that done today, but if it's not done, it's fine. And then,
My grandma's always like, it'll wait on you. It's not going anywhere. It'll wait. Some things will not wait on you. So I think we have to balance that.
And then some things you have to get done. And that's part of like that self-discipline of like, okay, I've got to get this done today.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the balance between the two of those, meditation is key, running, plenty of sleep, yoga, eating right. All those things help me to be able to do all this stuff and not go crazy. But also the downtime. Like I know that from 8 to 5-ish, depending on the day, that's when I really get things done. But in the evening, like I want to spend time with Brent. We're home buddies. I want to have dinner with you. I want to maybe watch a TV show. I want to read. I want to relax. And that little area right there is key for me being productive the next day. If I took that time for myself. Because if you worked until 9 p.m., I'm not going to be as motivated to work the next morning. Mm-hmm. So the balance.
Yeah. So you just got a few more questions here. What is some advice you would give to someone that's 18 and they're unsure of the next step?
Don't decide on your career yet. No. If you know what you want to do and you are passionate about it, go for it. I would also say just don't care what others think about you. Gosh, if I could just tell myself that.
The Enneagram 3, we can't. We just can't do it.
It's this curse.
I know. It's awful.
It's an actual curse of like wanting to satisfy everyone at the same time, but also trying to figure out what you want. It's the inevitable balance between the two. I would say you have plenty of time. And if you are unsure, it's okay. Mm-hmm. If you think you want to do something and then the next day you think you want to do something else, you just got to go with what you feel. That's what I would tell my 18-year-old self, to not choose a career yet and to figure out and explore a little bit more who you are and find that balance between what you feel like you have to do and what you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So what would you give a 30-year-old? Like, what advice would you give someone that's 30 in that same position?
I would tell them, even if you have a doctorate and you want to go back and you want to get something else, you can, because it's really cliche to say it's never too late to start something, but it isn't, because you can't go back. So like start now and then do what you want to do. So no matter how old you are, if you're not happy with the person that you are, if you're not happy in the career that you're in, just change it, because you can't undo it. So just change it. Like whether that be very, very small steps or a huge step, like you're in charge.
Mm-hmm.
You can make those decisions. And so
we love
change it.
You should listen to Middle Ground podcast.
I've heard of them.
Oh, we love them. She's like my idol, not in a weird way, but so they're all.
No, I feel.
They're always like, you're the main character of your book. Yeah. So make yourself the main character. It's okay if your story is different, because this is your story. It's your book. Mm-hmm. So do your thing.
Yeah, and don't feel like your story has to be what society, that path. Mm-hmm. You did this, now you have to do this. No, you don't.
Yeah.
So we've talked a little bit about what this podcast is about, and I'm just really big on Arkansas supporting Arkansas. So what are some of your favorite local businesses?
I have lots of favorite local businesses. I really, food-wise, anywhere downtown. So Recovery Room, Omar's, Roots is great. There's lots of cool Asian places. Curry Leaf, we really, really love Indian foods. We go there a lot. I love Plant Cartel. They are the best. Mm-hmm. Have you been there?
I have not, but I have been looking at like, they do like the plant pickup or like the curbside haul or whatever.
You can go in now.
I need to go.
Because she's opened back up for
awesome
people to come in. So I buy plants there all the time. Truck Patch is my favorite grocery store. I have to give them a shout out because they're local.
Mm-hmm.
They're like a tiny Whole Foods, and
We've
they're
been
great.
in there.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
love them. Native Brew Works, the brewery. Have to give them a shout out too because they're going to be open, and
I've been following.
doesn't love local beer, and it's really cool because they're not going to have Wi-Fi or anything like TVs. It's just going to be really focused on connection.
I like that.
Mm-hmm. And that's something that's really big for me as well. I really like thrifting, so I go to Abilities a lot.
Mm-hmm.
That's also downtown. Nirvana yoga downtown. And then I do a lot of running with Gearhead. They have a running group if anyone's ever interested in that. It's at 6:30 on Saturdays if anyone ever wants to get up that early. But it's fun to have a community to run with because it kind of holds you accountable. But those are kind of like my favorite local places. But I'm also a creature of habit, so I'm going to do like the same things over and over again.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So where can people find you online, find your nonprofit, and find your blog?
Yeah. So you can go on my Instagram, Arc Yoga Girl, arcyogagirl.com. I have my YouTube classes on there. I do offer monthly YouTube classes for free. I'm about to start with meditation, so weekly meditations, and then I'm hopefully going to be doing some more PT stuff on there as well. And you can find all that on there as well as my blog. For my nonprofit, you can go to project.warm on Instagram or projectwarmnonprofit.com to figure out how to get involved either here in Jonesboro, or if you're in Madison, you can also volunteer there, and hopefully other cities in the future, to be determined, of course. COVID has kind of put a dent in everything, but we'll figure it out. And yeah.
I love it. I just accepted a recent position. I was just dreaming here. I just accepted a position as a therapeutic foster care coordinator, and
congratulations.
So I was just like, oh, maybe we could do like a little yoga class for the kids. We could have like a little, I don't know, maybe once a quarter or something, try to get them active doing something. So there's a lot of ways I think we can connect.
Anyone can reach out if they want me to do a yoga class for like a business, or I do a lot of group privates. So at people's houses, I'll do that, or their business, or just like a small group. And my schedule, if anyone ever wants to come to a class, is also on my website. So where I'm teaching at that time, especially because a lot of them now will be donation based, I'm excited to put that on there so people can come. You can pay nothing, or you can pay $1. Like, it really doesn't matter. Like, it's about coming and showing up and doing yoga. So
perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah. So are there any last words that you want to get out there to the listeners before we wrap this up?
I would like people to know that I'm writing a cool book, and it will hopefully come out in May of 2021.
Perfect.
So just stay tuned for that.
Yeah, we'll definitely need to read that whenever it comes out.
Yeah.
And I just want to thank you again for being here, taking the time to share your stories. It was really interesting, really insightful. And thank you. You're a great guest.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
Yeah, so this has been another episode of the Cover Angle Podcast. We'll have all of the websites and the Instagram handles and the ways that you can connect with Bethany in the show notes. And until next week, peace.